Well, good afternoon and welcome to our show this afternoon where we're going to be featuring Justin Vermaak. And at the end of my stream with Justin Vermaak, I will give you all the information as far as what's been happening all around the world. You know, there's been lots of activity on the websites as far as our man David Safi is concerned. There are lots of people. Let me just get rid of these things at the back here. That makes it better. And we are on the show, and we will be chatting to Justin about what's going on with racing. But unfortunately, I'm sorry about that's taken so long to get up. I've tried about 5 times, but we've got a very bad connection here, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect the page. Just a couple of things before we chat to Justin. Kira Kotson is running a foundation or a fundraising exercise for the jockeys, and those are the hard done by jockeys. And I'll have her on Sunday. We'll have a little discussion with her. Kira Kotson is Glenn Kotson's daughter. She's big on social media. She knows how to do these things and get this done. And apparently they've raised quite a lot of money already, and we'll find out all about that from her. So we look forward to chatting to Kira Kotson on Sunday at the same time. 3 o'clock she'll be my guest, because there are a lot of jockeys out there that really are battling through this lockdown period. I think they're not getting any income at all. And we'll discuss how she wants to do this and where she wants to go with this whole thing. As far as the other big news is Bob Baffert. I'll just say, I'm just putting in here. So now all the guys can see that we're alive now. Bob Baffert ran 2 divisions of the Arkansas Derby. And apparently, this is live on the lines overseas, and probably the big news. Hello, Nikki. Nice to have you with us again. The big news on the lines overseas is that 2 of his horses came up positive on that Arkansas Derby meeting. Well, the news that followed that was Nadal, who won 1 leg of the Arkansas Derby and is unbeaten and a very, very good horse. Danny, nice to have you. Had a condylar fracture of the sesamoid this morning in his workout. He went wrong. He obviously had it all yesterday morning, and he has been retired. So it was rumored that he might be one of the 2 horses that came up positive for Baffert. I know that there have been a lot of people on websites saying that Baffert was not above board. I looked at his record, and I think that he's just an unbelievable trainer. It would be very interesting to see what comes out of this. Black Swan, nice to have you with us. And hopefully you'll all be able to ask Justin Vermaak some of the questions you need to know, because he should be with us any moment now. And we'll find out exactly what's going on in the bloodstock industry as far as breeders are concerned, because he's very close to them. I know that yesterday Justin went up to the farms and saw a whole lot of yearlings and broodmares and whatever. And as probably the biggest bloodstock agent in South Africa, and certainly got an international footprint, very interesting chatting to him. So here he is. Justin's on the line. Justin, how are you?
James, good, and you?
Excellent. Now, I hope everyone can hear you loud and clear. If I can just get the thumbs up from someone, but I've got you loud and clear, and that's good.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks a lot. Obviously, it'll be great if no one can hear me. Just let me know. I am living in a place where the signal from time to time is not the best. So, James, if I do blur out a little bit, just let me know and I'll repeat what I've said.
Well, it looks to be a pretty good signal at this stage. And loud and clear we got from England. Nikki has written in, that is Nikki Henderson, written in loud and clear. So very nice to have a great message. Justin, bloodstock agents, you've been in it now for a number of years. And the first question, and obviously the question that I need to ask you, how's it affected your business, this lockdown and COVID-19?
Yeah, James, it's obviously been very quiet in the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 weeks. Usually I'm selling 3 or 4 horses a month, and I keep a little notebook of all the deals we do. And there was nothing for the past 2 months, so until this week, which I managed to sell 2 horses. One is a broodmare, that Group 1 winner, Campharatus. She's now owned by Van Ackerman. We'll go to stud for him this season. And then obviously the horse of Paul Peters, War Room, who we completed this week, he's going overseas. So, yeah, good. At least good to get, some deals back. And then with racing coming back next week, it will be back to normal, I hope. I think obviously prices and that type of thing will be affected for long to come. But it's been tough. Without much racing going on, there's been no income, no deals, that type of thing. And as you know, people like us, we're feeding shares in a lot of horses and feeding mares and that type of thing. So the bulls haven't gone away. But, at least things are getting back on track now.
Well, just talking about Jetvest, Werner's business and his racing name, he races with the Funzels, doesn't he?
Yes, he races under Jetvest Pty Limited, and he owned a pretty good horse called Iska, who was a grey sprinter of theirs. And he's just, I haven't known him for long, but Gavin Funzel rang me up and just asked if I heard of any broodmare potential going around at decent prices with the market where it is. And he had this guy, Werner, who wants to look at getting some mares he normally wouldn't be able to have access to if the market was still where it was a few years ago. So, that filly came up and he wanted to take a stab. So I wish him the best of luck.
Well, I know some of the owners pretty well. In fact, Gerald Sadler is one of my great mates and told me all about the deal. And I think that Werner got this mare at an absolute steal. She's to buy a Group 1 winner for what he bought it for, and obviously that's probably confidential. But I think that it was a really good deal on his behalf. Did he get anything at the Summerhill sale? Was there anything there that he liked?
Look, I agree, James. It was a great price. I mean, a few years ago, you could never buy a Group 1 winner, whatever the pedigree is, for little money, And the only critique for that filly is obviously she is a little bit light in the page. She doesn't have a pedigree littered with black type, but at the end of the day, she's a Group 1 winner, and the reason that mares, stakes-winning mares, are in demand for breeding purposes is because there has been proven, direct correlation between mares that could run and increased chances of producing stakes runners. So she's a Group 1 winner. She won a proper Group 1 race, beating Running Brave, who's a solid filly at 4 matches, and O Susanna in Johannesburg. And I think she'll make a good broodmare. And I know he was bidding on 1 or 2 horses on the Summerhill sale. He went for that filly, Heaps of Fun, who's a Guineas winner. I'm not sure if he closed the deal off because I don't know. It just that Summerhill sale became a bit of a nightmare, in my opinion. At the end, no one knew what was going on, and I was bidding on 1 or 2 horses, and you weren't hearing if you had been outbid, and no chance to come back. And I think they bit off a bit more than they could chew in terms of emails and deadlines and that type of thing. So it was a bit frustrating, but I do know he was looking at 1 or 2.
Okay, just talking about Campharatus, a lot of people out there won't really understand that there's 32 Group 1s a year in South Africa, and obviously fillies don't win all those Group 1s. So that, let's say fillies can win 10 or 12 of those Group 1s. You're talking about pretty solid stuff for a mare, and that's why Group 1 winners are extremely rare and very difficult to purchase.
Yes, exactly that. And usually, especially in South Africa, any filly that does end up winning a Group 1 is usually owned by one of the big breeders already, Drakenstein Spud or the like. So, and those type of horses you can never buy off of them. So when one does come available, it is quite rare. And, I looked at her form at length during this whole thing, and, that run was no flash in the pan when she won the Group 1. If you look at some of her other runs, I mean, she ran 6th in the July last year,
yes,
which is what people forget. She only got beat 2.5 lengths by Do It Again. So you can't fluke a run like that. She's a solid mare, and I think she'll be a very good broodmare for him.
That's excellent and wonderful to have someone investing in the market, because I don't think there are many investors at this stage. War Room, let's chat a little bit about him. He's unbeaten and looks like a pretty handy 2-year-old. So they've got their whole career ahead of him. Is he going to Hong Kong?
No, he's not. He's going to Singapore, funny enough, which is really cool, I thought, because obviously it's I wouldn't say a new market for us, but it's not something that is done regularly because, the transport protocols to get there is just an absolute nightmare, even by our standards. It's quite well publicized. I think everyone knows that we have to do the 21 days here in South Africa and then 3 months in Mauritius before we get to England. And for whatever reason, horses have to do a 30-day residency if they're going to Dubai. They have to do 30 days in England, as we know. They have to do 60 days if they're going to Hong Kong. But for whatever reason, they have to do 90 days if they're going to Singapore, which is just unbelievable. We won't get to the fact that they've got to do 6 months if they're going to Australia, which just seems like a real non-essential extra that a horse has to go through. And it's not a bad thing because he can be in full training in England, but it's just the timeline that you're losing with a horse. So these guys, they bought this horse to run in the Singapore. There's a good 3-year-old challenge, a 3-year-old series that they have every year there. And there's, I think, 3 races, and they worth $200,000 a pop, So he'll go over for that once he's finished all his traveling. And, we hear from, people like Mr. De Kock and others at length about the horses go through. But it's unfortunate because, a horse like him, his landing in Singapore is going to cost another just over all the transport costs, and that should be money that's going into the seller's pocket,
Yes.
But it's not. It's going to transport. So it is unfortunate. I was quite excited about that one because, like I said, it's Singapore. It's a new buyer, first time ever South African buyer. I can't disclose the name of the guys at the moment, but we'll see when the horse is running. And I sold him a few Argentine colts over the last 6 to 8 months, the 2 or 3 of them. And fortunately, let me just try my luck with a South African horse or two and see how they go. And they've taken a bite at this guy. And, if you watch his replays, he's always very impressive. A lot of speed, a natural speed horse. And he's an imposing, impressive-looking guy in a photograph as well, which helps. So they've taken the plunge and bought him, and I'm pretty sure he's a horse who's going to go and do quite well there. And then hopefully we can get these people to buy more South African horses in the years to come.
Well, his bike probably should be able to get a bit further, and I think his last run he came from just off them, didn't he?
Yeah, he's his first run he was a little bit green and he didn't show blistering pace, and he put the race to bed at the end. His second run was unbelievable. He bounced 2 lengths clear and they never sniffed him. And then last time he ran in one of these feature races where it's like weight for wins, So
Yes.
he had 60 kilos and the others had 55 and less. So obviously they rode him a little colder, bearing in mind. And he just looks like when the others are looking for the line, he's still galloping strong, and he was finding, if anything, at the end of that race. And yes, you're right. I spoke to the jock after.
Warren
I spoke
Kennedy.
to Warren during this whole thing, yes. And he did say, he feels like a horse is going to go a bit further. And he said that in one of his interviews as well. He said he looks like he could go a mile, this horse. So when you've got a horse who can do that in Singapore, now you're opening up the big money races, because there, as you know, the Gold Cup and those things are not like here, 3,000 meters. The Gold Cup's 1,800, and that's about as far as it gets. But the big money races are, up to a mile. So if he can go from 1,000 to a mile, he's got a lot of options as a 3-year-old, and then of course the 4-year-old series in Singapore as well. So yeah, holding thumbs there with him.
Justin, just talking about the export and the protocols and that, this COVID hasn't helped us. What is your take on it, and what do you think happens from here?
Yes, it's just, my word, I must be probably the wrong person to ask because I'm quite negative about that whole thing. But, I feel like in the few years that I've been working in the bloodstock trade industry, it's all you ever hear is, yes, this is opening here, this is opening then, and every January it seems like we're going to be opening in 6 months, and then 5 years passes by and nothing's happened. And can I put blame at anyone's doorstep? I don't think so. It must be one of the hardest jobs I couldn't imagine taking over that whole story myself. I wouldn't know where to start. I think dealing with all the bureaucracy and red tape of various nations, governments, and all that, I think must be an absolute nightmare. And I feel for guys like Adrian Todd at the forefront of that. I just hope that at some stage we can get it, at least if it's not right down to 21 days in South Africa, maybe a month less in Mauritius, or at least just a half the time, because to have 7 or 8 months, you buy a horse and it arrives where it's going 7 or 8 months, just chases so many people away. And you cannot have a successful horse racing industry, a thriving horse racing industry anyway, without the ability to facilitate some type of trade, because you need owners to be selling the odd horse here and there, replenishing the pockets, and it all filters back into the system of young horses because they reinvest that money. Now, as you know, we have a few years ago I started Green Street Bloodstock Syndicates, and I can say wholeheartedly that the reason we did so well as a syndication company, you see other people popping up and doing it from time to time, which is great, but it never really gets too far because people, they bite into the initial interest. But the way we kept it going was when we got 1 or 2 horses that won their first race or second race, and there was then in their place. So I didn't hold on to them for a year, and then the owner's feeding for a year, and they get a little bit sour, and the excitement goes away. The moment the horse is in his place, I sell him to Mauritius, we grab a few $100,000 for the horse, and then we go again. And that's how we managed to successfully for years keep the cycle of ownership going within our own business. And I know that if we had more options available to us, we would be able to grow our little bloodstock syndication business to have double the horses it has at the moment, which these guys in Australia you can see are doing so well all the time. Because any horse that becomes a group performer is then sold to Hong Kong for real good money, or wherever else they sell horses, to Singapore as well, of course. So in our industry, we're racing for no stake money, and we're racing for no export, and you need one of them to really encourage horse ownership at a big level. So I can't see how our stake money would ever go to some massive level like Australia and other places. But if we can get the export part of it right, then at least there's another out for owners to keep putting money in and keep investing with breeders and that type of thing. So it's a precarious situation, and I think one of the things about having open borders, which a lot of people tend to not place emphasis on, is the fact that we would have access to better shuttle stallions. I think you'd find operations like Dali and Coolmore, they might have their own South African operations, and things like that. I mean, can you imagine having Dali SA and Coolmore SA like they are in Australia? And you look with envy when these stallion fees announced in Australia, when they will come out, and you see who Coolmore shot in Australia this year, and Dali, and you look and you're seeing horses like American Pharaoh, Justify, Caravaggio, US Navy Flag, all these horses to Australia, and here we're sitting a little bit isolated, not having access to the great bloodstock of the world, And I think we go behind as the years go on, because you can't keep up in our little shell if we don't have access to the global market, because horse racing is just that big global market now, and a little bit further away, and it is quite frustrating, but hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and we can open up our export situation and join the party, in the world of horse racing.
Well, that's first prize, to try and get them out early. But you haven't let the grass grow under your feet, because you do a lot of business with Argentina and Singapore, and I'm pleased to say that I was one of the people that started that whole thing with 3 first horses for him, for Patrick Shaw, in Argentina with Ignacio Pawlowski, and you've turned out to buy some horses there. That said, there's no way Argentine horses don't do well here. Well, we proved them wrong, but you've really done pretty well, and the Argentine market is a vibrant one.
Yeah, very much so. I was a bit lucky. I met a guy who's a bloodstock farm manager there. I met him in Hong Kong at the international races, and we just kept in touch and chatted, and he sent me a filly that had won a Group 1, and he just asked if I might be able to find a buyer. Just by pure luck, We worked with Shahan on it as well, Malherba, and we sold this horse, this Group 1 winning filly, to Coolmore, I think it was, in the States. And I said to myself, I'm gonna use the commission that I've made here to go to Argentina. And I spent 3 weeks there, and I didn't know anyone. And I did the rounds, and I went to the farms and did the whole story. And I really love the place. It's an outstanding country, and I now go 2 or 3 times a year on bike trips. But obviously, with Green Street and just looking for more work, being a bit frustrated with the conditions of trade in South Africa, I had to find a way to try and get higher quality horses to Singapore, and South Africa was never going to work with the transport problem. So, obviously, you mentioned with Ignacio Pavlovsky, who's a guy I buy from now, he has a phenomenal track record of sending horses to Singapore for Shaw. And if you look back at Patrick Shaw's big, equine millionaire horses and horses that won huge races for him there, the bulk of them are Argentine horses. So they go there and do really, really well. So it's not like reinventing the wheel. And the same thing for what you said about South Africa. It's people have short memories. It's quite amazing. That era when I was growing up, in the 90s, watching racing, and there were so many Argentine champions. If you think back to, Ilustrador and Resfa, Igreja, and all those top horses that people have completely forgotten about. And even after that, you'd have Private Jet and War Art and El Picho won the July twice. So you had Jeff Woodruff and Mike de Kock and the guys training horses there that won top Group 1 races in this country. And a couple years on, it stops getting done for whatever reason, and all of a sudden, all of that's forgotten. And then, I had 1 or 2 raised eyebrows when I bought 1 or 2 horses over there. And look, the only 3-year-olds, the one won her second start after missing the kick, so she's on 2 starts, and horses that are doing really well and hoping that they can go on with it. But the quality of bloodstock is really high there, really, really strong quality, and available at good prices. So that was the whole idea, was trying to get stock into Singapore, and we've got numerous horses there now that are going into racing when racing resumes. Hopefully, it's going to be in the beginning of July. But Singapore, unfortunately, the government's been really, really tough on the racing there. They're not going to be racing the whole of June. So it's tough times out there, but Argentina's a great place to go and buy horses. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah. So, all right, just talk me through your international arm is what? Green Street International.
Yes, we operate as Green Street International, and that is we're based in Singapore. We're a proper registered company there, and the whole lot. And that is basically just the syndication. It's all my private bloodstock work I do as under Vermaak Equine, which is my company based in South Africa, and then Green Street International, we run a couple of syndicates through in Singapore.
And you're pretty close with Marsh Shirtliff's son in Singapore. I think that you do a lot of work for them.
Yes, Guy Shirtliff has been living there for quite a long time now. He is a financial guru. He's an absolute machine, this guy. When he makes calls on the markets and currencies, he doesn't miss. So he manages a huge hedge fund out there, and he's done very well for himself. And he is obviously he doesn't have much option but to take to horses. And he owns quite a couple of horses out there with Ricardo Lagrange, who worked with Patrick, obviously. And his colours are the blue with, I think, the red braces or something like that What a Winter ran in, those famous colours that What a Winter ran in. So, I get on very well with Guy, and he comes into shares and horses with us and with Marsh. And Bryn Ressel's got a couple as well, and Zian Smith and the guys. So there's quite a few owners here, but predominantly now my owners in Singapore are foreigners that are not South Africans, English people, local Singaporeans. And I work closely with a young guy there called James Peters. And James Peters was the assistant trainer to Michael Freeman, who was a top trainer out there for many years. And James took over the yard and kept a couple of Michael's clients, including the China Horse Club, who James trains for in Singapore. And we work quite closely together and put horses together. together, that type of thing. So basically, I'm out there trying to select some horses for him, and then we do a team effort putting them together.
You're not allowed to travel at the moment, are you? You stuck here.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So this is a lot of Skype and Zoom and that type of thing going on.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's quite different, I tell you, because I usually keep a record in my phone of every flights I take, just for interest to see how it averages out over the months and the years. In the last 3 years, I was hitting about 75 flights a year, and now for the last 3 months, not one. I think I've flown twice this year only when I went to Argentina. So it's been quite a bit of a change, and I've been stuck here at home the whole time with my increasingly pregnant fiance, and it's been fun and games.
Well, all the very best. That's tough. That's not easy. Just chatting about the future. You've obviously been able to get out to some farms and see some horses recently because that's your job. It's your business.
Yes, I have been. Since we dropped to level 4. I've been able to get around to a few places, and I've been to Richmond and Main Chance and Aventure and John Everett's place at Creek. I just got back from there yesterday from series, and just basically trying to get all the information I can have on each yearling, and then waiting and seeing what happens with the sale, if it's going to be online or if it's going to be delayed or if it's going to be there in whatever shape or form, and just wanting to have notes and records on all the yearlings in case they become available and that type of thing. And I do know a lot of horses are being sold already. To get a package of horses from one farm, but it's tough, James. You could be offered the most outstanding looking colt for a fraction of the price that you would have to pay last year, and you'd be so grateful to the breeder. But now you pick up the phone and you've got to try and get someone to buy the horse, and it's not that easy. So I know we're coming back to racing, and hopefully that gets people back into the spirit of buying. But we haven't been racing for 2 months, and we must face reality that stake money has been greatly depleted, and it's hard to pick up the phone and tell a guy that he must pay 400, 500 when the SA Derby is only worth 400,000. It's another story when you're buying horses and you're selling the Dream and the Derby and the Classic are worth 2 million a piece, 4.5 million, and now the July's worth 1.5, and those other races are worth 400 grand. Maiden used to be worth 100, and now it's worth 50. So the horse prices have to change this year. People have to be realistic if they're going to sell horses, I think. So it's going to be tough, but this industry's been through worse before, and I'm pretty sure with a new structure coming through in the next few months, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm pretty sure we'll be back to running for good stake money again next year, and then hopefully this 2020 will just be a blip in history,
Your involvement in the racing industry, has anyone chatted to you about giving any advice? Are you on the radar as far as people are concerned that are in places to actually chat about marketing? You've done an unbelievable job building your business. You've got to have some sort of ideas.
Not really, James. I used to get involved in a couple of things here and there, and I must say it was very frustrating. I was on the board, the Western Cape division of the RA, and we had a good board of guys there. The Western Cape chapter of the RA is not something that you really could do much with. It is more for race day hospitality for owners and that type of thing. And we weren't able as a group to make many changes or decisions because everything had to go to the top, But I'm hoping things run smoother. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about various people and what's going on and all that. And I can only say from what I know, and I think that the people we've at the top now making decisions for the restructure and all that, I think they're up there with the very best human beings I've met. So I think with that gang of minds that they can pull the rabbit out the hat and do something. But I haven't been involved in any discussions. I think there's cleverer people than myself. What I am, I've joined the Export Council, Catherine Hartley and the co at not exactly sure how they phrase Racing South Africa Export Council thing. I've been co-opted onto that board now, so just promoting South African horses and that type of thing around the world. Races Committee, which is we assist the NHA with upgrades and that type of thing, and just trying to
all the group enlisted races.
Yes, exactly, and just trying to keep the pattern, the pattern of South African horse racing, group races in flow. So those are my contributions at the moment. I'm always happy to give my 2 cents if I need to. As you know, I don't keep my mouth shut too much. It's probably a weakness, but it's what it is.
I've got a question for you, from Charles Pretorius. Nice to have him listening to the show. He says, do you like Argentine beef? Well, I don't know if that's a pointed question or whatever, but we...
You say you don't know if that's a loaded question. Well, out the commentator's name again, and you will know very fast if it's a loaded question or not. But yeah, Charles a good guy. We've been friends for a few years. I like a guy like Charles because you can tune him up and he takes the chirps and then he tunes you back, and no one loses. No one has hard feelings,
Yeah. And Charles also been to places none of us would ever dare go. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The dark web mainly.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I see he's putting together this whole media association thing, and I mean it's very noble for Charles, I must say. Good man.
Well, he's always been a forward thinker, and he said, aside from Erupt, which stallion do you think will make it big in the next few years?
That is, I'm notoriously bad at doing that for classification, to be honest. I've seen a couple, it's always exciting when you see the new youngsters, and I always judge them by yearlings, and you see what's going on. And I must say, when I saw the first Give Me the Green Light yearlings, and me and a couple of other genius peers, including like Dan Cotson, for example, who fancies himself as a buyer, we had a hard time liking them, and we didn't buy any. And then the next thing past our beautiful purchases, like we were in reverse. So now I've bought a lot of Give Me the Green Lights, and I just think, judging by yearlings, the one horse that, if I've got a short list of 30 odd horses from what I've seen on nationals, in my top 5, there's like 2 or 3 Rafifs in my top 5. He's throwing some beautiful horses, some outstanding types, and William Longsword threw some very nice yearlings as well. So we're buying some Rafifs and gambling a little bit and hoping, but those look like the very good young ones at the moment.
Erupt, you were involved in him?
Yes, Erupt was raced with distinction for the Niarchos family, who obviously is a European. They've been around for a great game. They're a great name in Europe, and he was a homebred Erupt by Dubawi, and he won a Group 1 in Canada, and he won one the same 2,400 meter Group 1 that Ford Wood won. And I think anyone who knows anything about racing can testify that to win a Group on grass is, that's the
proper race
grass racing in the world. Yeah, so it's like if you've got a horse who can win a Group 1 on the dirt in the States, you've got a horse in the same of European grass racing. So he was a horse that we brought here, and it was tough when he came. There wasn't a big market for a horse like him at the time, but we were lucky because the Niarchos family retained a big share in him and supported him with some proper mares. And I worked on the original syndication, and then they asked me to come on board to manage the horse really last year, and we managed to get him to the 100 mare mark, which was, I thought, pretty good, and real high quality mares as well. So I've been involved with him, and he's a horse I like a lot. He's also putting he is a Dubawi, which European people again will know that he doesn't throw these big brutes, tall, long monster horses. They can be short coupled and medium sized, but that's their type and that's how they run. And Dubawi, Erupt is very much like that. And there were a few concerns from people, obviously, that he might throw small horses and that type of thing, which doesn't help in the sales ring, which is true. But luckily enough, he seems to be throwing them quite big, Erupt. And a couple of the mares that I know typically throw small sized foals. they're throwing their biggest progeny buyer up. So, yeah, it's all looking good. Always does when foals on the ground and whatnot. He's got a second crop coming, being born this year. He'll have the yearlings next year at the sales. But, you've got to get them on the race course and they go. But so far, he's looking good. And he's got high-end support from big farms, which was important,
Yeah. Justin, just in finishing, you've obviously keeping a lot of horses. I think the word we need to get out there is on the basis that we're on our way now. Whatever has happened, and there's a lot of changes in racing, there's got to be positives. You've got to look at the positives, what are going to come out of this.
Yes, absolutely. And, that's where, people like Van Ackerman, this is what I'm trying to say to people and my other clients, like Lawrence Berners, and we've got to spin this, not that we have to spin it and make lies to people, because it's the truth. We have access as buyers. When I say we can buy horses this year that, probably couldn't buy at the same price as before, and you probably won't be able to in the future because things will correct. So if you are bold and brave enough, this is the time to go and grab that stock that you normally couldn't get your hands on and keep the industry going with purchases and keep trade spinning, because with racing coming back now, this is definitely behind us. And yes, it's a pain in the arse that we're running for reduced stake money, but it's like that the world over, really. Everyone's stakes have been reduced, and it will go back to where it was before. And the horses we're buying now are not racing now. They're going to be racing in the next year, 2-3 years. And you've got to say that the stake money is going to be back. And it would be the people that are jumping on buying stock now are the ones who are going to be rewarded in a few years' time. It's, after everything bottoms out, there is always a bounce and, like a bull market, which I would consider racing to be at the worst point it could get to without going bust. I think a few people have said that in the last few weeks, and now it's going to pick up. So, we're just trying to keep the wheels of trade spinning and buy into horses, and let's get the ball back on the court. I know a few jockeys will be a little bit peeved they won't be able to travel into provincial, but I'm sure over level 2 that'll probably change, and then we'll have our season and horses and jockeys going up and down in full swing again, and this will just be hopefully a bad memory, But I think on the whole, as a racing industry, we've got so many people restructuring going on, and the commitment of Mary Oppenheimer daughters, which has been unbelievable, and the future looks golden. It was getting dreary at the end there with Pumalela, who, in all honesty, didn't do a great job. Coronavirus just was the final nail in the coffin. But I think a lot of people have had to have a long look at themselves and the way things were run, and I think it's only upwards. The right people are getting involved, and as you say, people have to be positive. I think the media have to play a part in that as well. When Charles come with this association and everyone's getting on board and it all looks good, I think the media have got to play their part and put together positive headlines out there and stuff like that as well, because there's nothing worse to people that don't know anything about racing. Google South African horse racing and you get all these
doom and gloom
articles. It's awful. It's almost like we hate ourselves. Like we can't. We got to use our own press to push out the good stuff. If someone wants to say something bad about us, it'd be an outside industry, not ourselves. So, but in saying that, they've also had bad things to report in the last few years. So you can't expect them to keep quiet. But I think it's upwards from here now, and let's just get the show back on the road. And thank goodness we are on Monday.
Well, Justin, if anyone wants to get hold of you, obviously they get hold of Vermaak Equine. You well involved in advertising and whatever. And if you'd like to give your number or your email address, so that anyone that listens to the show, we have a few people listen, and they want to buy horses, you're the man to get hold of.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Email is justin@vermaakequine.com. Pretty simple, and a quick Google search will bring up our website and all that stuff. So we're doing. Look, I must say, I've been very lucky. We have worked very hard over the last few years, and I cut my teeth in I started as a glorified groom, basically. I was an assistant trainer when I started. So it's not like I arrived on the scene with some luck and been riding it, but due to some hard work and good connections and some having the luck for some real good people like the Jacobs family, I've managed to build a still bloodstock business to do quite well for itself. And we're active pretty much everywhere. I've got a horse in England and America, and we race in Singapore. So, and then obviously South Africa is the hub. So, yeah, thanks for that, James. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I like watching your shows and all that. And hopefully you can get, with things taking shape again, there's more content and stuff for you to put out there, because it's good to watch.
Well, fantastic. I must just say at the end of it, bloodstock agents as a rule have a reputation of sometimes being a bit shady. The one thing that's got you where you've got is honesty. And I think that that's probably the most important cornerstone of your business. And it's really admirable, because there obviously are lots of opportunities for a man in your position to make a few extra rand when maybe you're not entitled to it.
Yes, no, thanks for that. I've always tried to be that way. I've always been of the opinion, you don't want to sell your name for a quick 50 grand or something, because your name sticks with you forever. And like I said, I did have a bit of luck. I've always tried to work and only take on roles for people that, are of good reputation. And obviously working for Andreas Jacobs was a big help in that. And I think in this industry, it's so hard, and there's a lot of hard aspects to being successful. You don't want to kick yourself in the teeth by doing stupid things, because that's really good. And it's a great industry to be involved in, as we all know. I mean, horses are beautiful animals. We all love them, and the people involved are great as well. You get to travel, you get the excitement of racing, which is second to none. And it's a great industry to be involved in. And I think going forward, it's going to be even better. So, yeah, thanks for the chat. It's been great, and I hope everyone has managed to remain sane in this whole lockdown story. Major pain and loss, as we know, but at least racing is resuming, and we can all get back to doing what we love again.
We look forward to Monday, and all the best with the birth of your child. And we look forward to being able to do some deals with you, Justin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Cheers.
Justin Vermaak. There you go. He is one of the shining lights in the bloodstock industry, and really always a pleasure to chat to him. He's one of those guys that if you need something done, I think that he's a go-getter. He's on the level. He works for the right people, and he's a great advertisement to South African racing. We have them all over the world. We have guys like Gareth Pepper, who's in Australia now. There are a whole lot of young guys that have really done very, very well. Charles and I are getting past it, but we still got a lot to offer, and we're hoping that we'll be able to bring you some good news and look to racing on Monday. But before Monday, on Sunday afternoon, I'm going to talk to Kira Kotson. For those of you that didn't get it at the beginning of the show, I'll give you an update on all the news that's happened over the week, because there has been a lot of news that's happened. And we'll go and chat to Kira Kotson about her effort as far as battling jockeys are concerned. From me, James Gooden, and everyone out there in racing, have a great weekend.